we've got to get to a point where we turn around and say, this is not acceptable. Something needs to change, because where are you going to get these managers, good, skilled, qualified managers to drive all these changes that are coming through when that pool is getting smaller, because we're not taking care of the people who are passionate about what they're doing and want to be in the industry, because they have to take care of their own health and well-being because they're burning out.
Nicole, we came across, I think it was about 5 weeks ago or so, you published a paper on stress for aged care managers. I know it's got a proper title, but that's the focus of it. And look, I downloaded it and read it. It's very, very interesting. I think it covers a lot of, not conversations, but areas that should be conversations, I think, and particularly focused on a group that we maybe don't think about that much. And I know you were previously in that group before you went to university to teach and to share your knowledge. But could you just tell us a little bit about your experience in the industry and your transition from industry to teaching?
Yeah, okay. So I finished my Bachelor of Nursing back in 96, and during that period of time, I'd actually worked as an AIN in aged care, and I loved working as an AIN in aged care. I finished and went out and did my graduate year in the acute sector. Wasn't something that I particularly enjoyed. I didn't find the joy in it. I didn't seem to have the passion for it, and I sort of thought, have I chosen the wrong career here? But then I reflected back on aged care, and I did love working there. So I actually moved into aged care back in 1997. So I've been in the aged care industry for quite a long time. I progressed from being a registered nurse into management and worked as a manager for over 16 years. And that in itself was an achievement in itself, because you don't often see a lot of managers stay in the industry for a long period of time. I had worked for the university for a number of years marking papers just as a sideline job. It was good for me to be able to network and see what our future RNs were learning at university. So I used to mark papers, and I had already published a paper with some friends at the university, and they offered a number of times for me to come and join the university. It wasn't sort of something, I loved what I was doing in aged care, and I'm very passionate about what I was doing. So it was sort of it wasn't something I was actually interested in pursuing until I burnt out. And then it was at that point in time that I sort of thought, I need to take care of my health and well-being. And as disappointing as it was for me to leave the aged care industry, it's also opened another door for me to actually maybe assist from the sidelines on some of the things that I had experienced in aged care. So hence the burnout in residential aged care managers scoping review.
The reason I said previously a group that are not really thought about in terms of this, or maybe even cared about, I know that's a strong way to put it, but I did a podcast previous to this quite a few years ago called the Dojo of Powerful Aging, and I spoke to another university researcher, Siobhan, maybe University of Newcastle from memory, but talking to her was the first time I ever understood that we have to care for carers, otherwise they can't really care that well. And we can have carers who are trying to look after other people's benefits, but who are suffering and declining in health themselves. So is that what you experienced when you were a manager? Like when you burnt out yourself, how did you recognize that?
Oh, I didn't. That's probably the key thing, is I actually didn't recognize that I had burnt out. So I think the manager's role is to look after your staff. First and foremost, your staff. If you've got happy staff, you've got happy residents. And so that's really important. So I think you do have your managers that are out there looking after the staff, and as an organisation, they're obviously interested in ensuring the staff are happy as well. So I think there's certainly a lot of focus on employees, which is certainly what is needed. But I think the manager level gets missed. I think it's kind of residential aged care is a middle management role. It's you're not at the bottom, you're not at the top. You're kind of stuck in the middle there between the corporate organisation and your employees. And I do feel that area is missed. And when I recognised that I had burnt out after I had left the industry, and I don't even think my employers knew that I'd burnt out either. It's slow, it's insidious, it just takes you over basically. And when I actually started looking into the research, I was really surprised to see how much information there is on aged care employees and aged care workers and burnout and stresses. And there's a plethora of information out there. But at the end of the day, I came down with five articles to do with residential aged care managers, which I thought was mind-blowing for myself. So it's definitely an area that I think requires more attention. And I think it needs more attention because we're already experiencing staff shortages now. Now, that's not just at employee level, that's at manager level. The number of emails you get from recruiters looking for aged care managers is huge, huge. And so I think the pool is getting smaller as to getting experienced managers. And so if we don't actually start looking at this a little bit more seriously, where are these managers going to come from? Nursing is a caring, compassionate industry, and yes, you can get a manager that might be an accountant. It could have a different background. That's fine, but if you really want to keep the care in aged care, you need to keep those managers, and they need to have a nursing background. And it was actually one of the recommendations in the Royal Commission was to build basically succession planning, but to build the current nursing workforce and managerial workforce. And Department of Health show that most of these managers actually have a nursing background.
It's good to talk to you, Nicole. It's great to have you on. Do you think things are gradually returning to normal after the virus, now that it seems to be done and dusted, or do we have a long way to go?
Look, that one's a difficult one for me to answer, only because I left the industry in 2021. So it was 18 months into COVID. The part of the research I did find was they were expecting it to become worse. They were expecting it to if you look at the stresses and what we found in our scoping review, but also what the literature shows, is the stresses are already there. The stresses are huge as it is. And take away COVID, just going back to 2019, you had the new aged care quality standards came in, you had the new quality indicators that came in, you had the Royal Commission in aged care. Now, this is all in 2019, throwing COVID on top of it, but they're huge changes, huge. So yeah, I think it's only going to get harder. And since I've left the industry, there's been more changes, to funding, and there are more changes afoot.
But speaking about compliance, it's good to have compliance and regulatory standards, but when that's overdone and it mounts up too much, are the nursing staff expected to carry out those checks and balances? Because it must really place a burden on them, and they're not caring as much as they are doing all the data entry and etc.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the research that we found in our scoping review showed that certainly in Norway, one of the papers came from Norway, and it was looking at the regulatory. So we had found in our research that there were three categories that we could put all these stresses into, and they were responsibilities, reaction, and regulation. So part of the regulation they found in Norway was that managers were being overloaded with administrative tasks. And so what that then does is that you then are leading from a distance. You're actually not out there sort of actually being on the floor, seeing what's going on, and that can't be good for anyone. And so then if you're doing more administrative stuff, then you're getting your RNs to do more frontline manager stuff. And so the whole roles start to change. And yeah, look, of course we need, checks and balances, we need compliance. You also need time in order to actually implement these things. It's great to have these ideas and looking at best practice and what's quality improvement, how can we get there, but you actually need time to implement these things. As I mentioned, 2019, you had some major changes, and then there were changes before then, and there's been changes since. When does anyone get a chance to actually deal with the change management process, which is an issue in itself? So yeah, so I do think, we need them, but we also need time to actually implement properly so that they just don't become a tick and flick and actually have some real meaning and oomph behind it, because that's what our elderly deserve. But you've got to actually have the time to do that.
Yeah, but because it seems like if you're doing it from a theoretical standpoint, we'll just put all these regulations in and that'll fix it.
Yeah.
In a practical, like at the coalface, is there a way to involve the people who are actually carrying this stuff out in the decision-making process so that it can be a more of a realistic expectation and we can get rid of some of the red tape? Or is there must be some way to reach that?
Yeah, and I'm sure the executive team at the corporate offices, because a lot of aged care facilities are sort of overseen by a corporate office, a large organisation these days. And so certainly at that level, I believe that is occurring, but you don't see a lot of that at the coalface, I suppose. So, it just comes about, and then, well, here are the new changes. This is what you've got to implement, or and certainly I remember when the new aged care quality standards came out, it was a very big shift from the previous standards, and it took a long time for me to sort of get my head around understanding what those changes involved and were going to look like from a practical point of view. And I don't know how many times I read the standards in order to properly understand them. Then you also need to be able to make the changes at a site level to accommodate for that. So, what we did yesterday can't be what we do tomorrow. So you can't have the same staffing as you did yesterday in order to make these changes and to make them work. And I don't think that occurs. So, at a corporate level, when I first started in aged care, I think there were like 25 managers at the corporate level. When I left aged care in 2021, there were well over 100
Wow.
managers at a corporate level. Okay, so it had grown, more than fourfold. Your structure on a residential aged care site pretty much stays the same. Yeah, you've got your director of nursing or your director of care services or your general manager on site, and then you usually have a deputy. And if you're lucky, you might have a clinical nurse coordinator. But you need to actually change the structure at the facility level side in order to make these changes and make them work.
That's tough though, Nicole, isn't it? Well, while the floor's moving and you're trying to adjust to other change, you're trying to then adjust your own actual operation. Part of my concern is that we never get a chance to measure the benefit or lack of benefit from these changes because they're just rolling and rolling. Have you experienced that or seen that?
Yeah, look, because you're constantly being bombarded with the changes, it's hard to stay on top of, because you've got new changes that are coming into place, and you've got your audits that take place by the commission. But yeah, it's we've got that philosophy of continuous improvement in aged care, but you I think more time. You need more time to be able to actually measure these and actually see that it's making a real difference. And I think we sometimes have that knee-jerk reaction that, okay, right, we've got to do something immediately. And yeah, and I agree with that. There's been a small problem and we need to address that. But you also need the time, the resources, and the the structure to be able to do that, because if not, this is all leading to burnout. This is all leading to a continual change in managers and staff, and I'm certainly not dismissing the staff here, but research is concentrating more at the managerial level. But you're getting this constant churn, and when you have that, where does consistency come from? You know, the final report asks for strong, consistent, confident leadership. Where is that going to come from if you're constantly losing the managers that you have at an aged care facility level? Now, as I said, I worked for over 16 years at the facility level, and I was planning on retiring and moving straight into a bed. So I planned on finishing one day and moving to bed the next day, and I'm now out of the industry. I left early. I departed early because I burnt out. So, yeah, I think it's difficult.
Yeah, yeah. You mentioned some key stresses there. So if someone from an organisation is listening to this, how can upper level management or whoever cares about addressing these before they become issues? Tell us a little bit more about those key stresses and what they mean to management.
Okay, so in our scoping review, we had found 3 categories: responsibilities, and they were the day-to-day duties that a manager performs, and the stresses that were involved in that were work overload, lack of time, lack of support, staff shortages, difficulties recruiting and retaining skilled, qualified staff, and also the number of staff that a manager looks after. So when we just look at responsibilities, that's just the everyday stuff that's occurring. And so, for example, in my experience, you know, I was on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for over 10 years straight. I look back at it and I think, oh my God, I mean, like that's just crazy to expect someone to be available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now, I had thought that had sort of started to slow down. We started sharing that responsibility, but I was at a function, I think 3 months ago, and someone had mentioned that they just left aged care because I can't do 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And I'm like, oh my God, you know, like that's still an expectation. And so that really sort of, it was frustrating for me to hear that, because I was like, I don't understand what people expect from a manager. For me, my facility had grown in size, and so I went from 50 staff to 150 staff. So the research that we found showed that you had more structural empowerment if you had 30 or less employees that were direct reports. I had 150. You know, so you lose that structural empowerment, and that increases your stresses. Overtime, the expectations to work overtime. If I had a registered nurse call in sick, or if I was short an AIN on the floor, it was an expectation that I went in and covered those shifts. Now, that's only going to get worse because you now have the mandatory requirements of having 24-hour RNs. And so as a facility manager who had done their day, you know, their work for the day, had gone home, been called up, told you don't have a night shift RN, it was expected for me to come back to the facility to do my night shift for the facility to keep it flowing, and to continue making sure that my facility was being managed properly. Now, how you can't have that happen and not expect that that's not going to lead to burnout. The second thing that we found was reaction, and so that was sort of a result from a stimulus. And the couple articles that we found were obviously related to COVID, because we only looked at the last 2012, from 2012 onwards, which was when the Living Better, Living Longer health reform came out. And it found staff shortages, managing conflicts, were all contributing. Now, we had already found them in responsibilities. So again, they're being amplified by COVID. And if I look back in history, in aged care, you know, national criminal record checks came in 2007. That was a reaction to what was happening at that period of time. In 2013, we had the installation of the fire sprinklers. It was mandatory to have fire sprinklers as a result of Quakers Hill. Now, yeah, these things need to happen, but that's where we found the reaction. And then the third thing that we found that led to us, stressors that led to burnout were regulation. And in particular, we looked at the Norway health reforms, and they found that managers were overloaded with administrative tasks, the increase in quality of care, focus on performance management, and also the competition in the market and the increase in that. So that also put on extra pressures, because aged care is now a competitive market. It used to be a small cottage industry, is what we called it back in the 90s and the early 2000s, but it is really a competitive market. And so on top of all these things that are occurring, you then have organisations that are sort of trying to differentiate themselves amongst other providers. And so you've got all these regulatory changes, these day-to-day responsibilities, all these stresses that are already leading to burnout, and then you've got the organisation on top of that saying, oh, and we'd like this, this and this please as well. And so they were the stresses that we found. And then when we had a look at the research, Maslach and later also found that burnout was not based on an individual's personality or character. So it wasn't being caused by the individual, but it was the environment or the situation or the organisational pressures that were contributing to burnout. So we've got all these things that are occurring, which are not always up to the individual to be able to fix. And, I appreciate that, people are a number when it comes to work, and yes, your job can be replaced. We've got to get to a point where we turn around and say, this is not acceptable. Something needs to change, because where are you going to get these managers, good, skilled, qualified managers to drive all these changes that are coming through when that pool is getting smaller, because we're not taking care of the people who are passionate about what they're doing and want to be in the industry, because they have to take care of their own health and well-being because they're burning out.
It becomes so obvious when you spell it out like that, Nicole. I mean, I think my heart rate raises just hearing the responsibility and the stress on people. So if my perception gives me that physical reaction, then I mean, I don't even know what to say to people who are going through that, but self-care is so important.
And my interest in the research is really, I want to look at how we can address this, because it needs to be at an organisational and a government level. Because again, I looked after myself. I great self-care, physically active, emotionally, spiritually. I took care of myself.
And not everyone can do that, can they, Nicole? You've come out with a positive story, but that's probably not always the case, right?
No, and it's a positive story, because we're 2.5 years down the track, and it has taken me a while to recover. So this doesn't sort of, oh dear, something's not right here, and then you leave and you move into a different industry. This has been a journey for me to get myself back on track and actually to recognise what happened. And and look, and I don't blame my employer. I don't blame this, I don't blame anyone for it, but at the end of the day, I'm so disheartened and disappointed that I had a lot more to offer in the aged care industry. I had an amazing facility. I had an amazing team. I loved what I did. And yet here I am on the sidelines now trying to help others, because, I don't want to see this continue. And so I'm hoping to sort of do further research on this so that we can actually come up with some strategies and go, well, hey, this is what people are saying, this is what we need to do. Because again, this is just my story, and there's plenty of stories out there, because you only have to look at the turnover in aged care managers.
Absolutely.
Is it a situation, Nicole, of having the government just maybe get a little bit less involved, if that's even a likelihood?
Look, obviously there needs to be regulations put in place. People need to be doing the right things. Maybe we just need to slow it down. When the National Criminal Record Check was implemented in 2007, that took a long time to sort of get that up and running, and really, probably a couple of years, to be honest with you. And it also slowed down the number of applicants you were getting, number of people walking in the door looking for jobs, because as an organisation, they had to work out, do we pay for the criminal record check? Do we get
Yeah.
prospective employees to pay for it? And organisations are different in how they implement those things, but that took a few years to actually implement. And and I suppose you look at 2019, boom, 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 all these changes. Well, when are people going to catch their breath and actually put things in focus? And as I said, change management's huge. We went from a 52-bed facility to 112-bed, and that process and that change management that was involved in that was huge. And it takes people, some people are good at adjusting quickly, others take a lot of time. So we need to take that into consideration. So maybe it needs to be slowed down. I'm not actually sure what the answers are at the moment, and that's where my future research is going to be concentrating on, because I want to actually see what needs to change, because something definitely needs to change. We can't stay on the course we're on now.
There's always an unintended consequence of change, isn't there? And little nooks and crannies that the people at the top maybe don't take into consideration, like how to implement and everything. But when you are in the midst of a burnout situation, does it sort of sneak up on you? Like, do you normalize your situation and take it for, well, this is sort of part of it, and before you know it, it sort of sneaks up on you in that way?
Yeah, I think so. So for me, when I look back on it, I sort of I'm not coping really well at the moment. I was becoming cynical. I was questioning things all the time. I was exhausted. I was constantly tired. Lack of sleep, insomnia, which isn't something that normally happens. And for me personally, I remember going to the doctors a number of times, going, "Oh, I think I'm perimenopausal." I said, something's happening. Something's not right. And they're like, no, everything's okay. And I'm like, you sure? Because something's not right. And so I did recognize something wasn't right, but I didn't know what it was. And in the end, the doctor had come back and he'd said, look, it's stress. And I'm like, really? Because, everything's working all right at work, and so I actually wasn't connecting the two together. And so, and again, burnout doesn't just it doesn't happen overnight. It's slow, it's insidious. People can burn out at different levels. So mine was a pretty major burnout. As I said, I disappointed I left, but I didn't recognize it, and my employee didn't recognize it either. So, maybe there needs to be some more recognition, some more accountability from organisations to be actually looking out for changes that someone might be going through. And I'm sure there's ways and means that we can do that. But again, I'm hoping that the research will lead me towards some answers there.
It sounds counterintuitive that you don't know that you're stressed, but I can see that is actually a thing. But what are some of the warning signs that a manager can identify that perhaps someone is in danger?
Yeah. Well, as I said, you've got so many responsibilities as part of your job that, doing overtime, for example, is, you can put a lot of hours into work, and you kind of feel like you're on this hamster wheel. You go in one day and you might start early, and then you might finish late, and you're just constantly on this hamster wheel. So I think if there are any slight changes, that's when discussions probably need to start taking place, because you don't recognize it yourself until you move down. You might be asking questions so that you can understand things better for yourself on how these are going to be, changes, how they're to be implemented, or you might question things. But I think in reality, I suppose in the end, I was quite cynical, because it was like it was just coming from every angle, and you were just bombarded that you didn't have enough time to even clearly think and clearly put things straight. And then on top of that, you had COVID. So you already had all these things happening, but then throw COVID on top of it, and yeah.
Is there a feeling of guilt as well? Like, because you're in a situation where you're caring for people. It's like all jobs have their stressful situations, but the consequence of your stress isn't always a vulnerable person will be affected.
Yeah.
Do you feel like it's an unfair feeling to have, but like a feeling of failure, or you're failing your residents? Because that would compound and make the situation worse and worse.
For me, no, I didn't have that feeling towards my staff or my residents. I suppose for me, it was guilt on
Yeah, for
me. So
yourself. Yeah.
for myself, but not towards anyone else, because I worked harder to make sure that it wasn't impacting my staff or my residents. So and so that compounded the stress for me, because I had to work harder so that it wasn't observed or evidenced by others. So yeah, yeah,
So this
that's
really
hard.
compounds people who care, doesn't it, Nicole? Like, and
Yeah.
generally that's the type of people that you've had in the industry, is people who really care about people. You know, they're not there for the money, they're not there for the glory. They're there because they care about their community, their elderly population, and people. You know, I've always, when people ask me, why did you stay in the aged care space? You know, you could have done anything in tech. And you know, the managers I dealt with, as you say, like in the early 2000s, they were all nurses. They would school me on all the clinical information because that wasn't my background. And I think rather fondly of those days, like really, and I was going to say strong, really strong nurses, they strong personalities, very, very strong in doing their job and understanding what it's about and all the pitfalls of that. But yeah, just I think that personality of the person in the position, they care, they really do care. It's not a fake care. So I think that's what happens, right? You care, so you take it on board, and then you care so much, you take more on board, and you're keeping everyone else good, but you're suffering yourself in some way.
Yeah,
It must be
definitely.
a catch 22 that just feeds on itself because you've got that characteristic, and because you
Yeah.
care. Like if you didn't care, it probably wouldn't affect you so much.
Yep.
No, no, exactly. And I was very passionate with what I did. I had, as I said, I had amazing facility, amazing staff. We had an amazing reputation, and to leave all that behind, that's really disappointing, and that saddens me, because I feel that it could have been prevented. I'm not sure quite how it could have been prevented, but and hopefully my research will lead to that. But yeah, it is a catch 22, and you just give and give and give more, because I could recognize that something wasn't right, and so you just sort of you do more, you put more effort in, and you do just yeah, it did compound it.
Yeah, I know you're saying you're kind of like operating from the sidelines at the moment, Nicole, but you know, I know all stories have kind of winding roads. I could kind of argue that you might have quite a huge impact with this type of thing because, as we're saying, it's not really thought about or talked about. What is your goal and your hope from your research and like you're so passionate operating inside the industry? What would be your hope of achievement from your position now?
Yeah, I want to see change. I want to help the others that are in those positions, in those roles, to actually succeed and fulfill what they want to achieve in their careers. I feel my career was cut short in aged care, and that, as I said, that does disappoint me. And so if I can do this research, so I've just been accepted to do my PhD, so I'm going to start that journey. And so I'd love to be able to talk to others about their experience, and you know, and find out more information, because I think we can make a difference. And I think it's going to, I think we're already at that point, but if we're not at that point, it's going to be soon that we get to a point where we've got to say, enough is enough. We have to actually address this. We can't sweep it under the carpet and go, well, that's all right. It's a shame we lost another manager, but just pop the ad in and we'll get the recruiters onto it and we'll get another manager. Yeah, as I said, I totally appreciate a business model. I have an MBA in my, so I'm certainly well qualified in how to run a business, but I think we need more than that. I just don't think we can just keep that business model mentality. We've actually got to start looking after people and recognizing this as an issue. And as I said, it was a function a couple of months ago. Someone's mentioned that, you know, that they've left their job as a facility manager because they're on call 24/7. Well, really, do we really need managers to be on call 24/7? You know, there's ways we can look at implementing changes to make that not a requirement. You know, in the early days when you were on call 24/7, it was a crazy thing. It was the fact that an AIN working in a hostel, the old hostel system, needed to administer some Panadol. So at 2 a.m, you would get a phone call for approval as a registered nurse for someone to administer Panadol. Now, thankfully, that's where we've moved beyond that. But, you know, I'm sure that there's ways of doing that. I'm sure that we can set up systems at facility level to change the structure and the roles and the responsibilities of people so that you don't have 150 employees directly responding or reporting to you, that you don't have to do overtime. And you know, I'm well aware we've got staff shortages, and that's certainly not just in this industry. It's worldwide across many industries. But I'm hoping that in the research we can look at what's contributing to the burnout that people are experiencing, what's contributing to people leaving the industry early, and what can we do to prevent that. That would make me happy. If I could achieve that, I'd be a very happy person, and I'd feel that what I have experienced myself hasn't been in vain, I suppose.
That Panadol example seems like a good example of a death by 1,000 cut. Like it seems like you're like Donald Duck on the raft trying to plug all the holes with his hand. Like you plug one, another one comes up. Like it must be so frustrating because it's so many little things. It's not like this. Oh, here's the problem. But it you know, having someone in your position is such a good thing. It can come from that background and bring forth all your experience and all your research. So it sounds like you're heading in the right direction at least.
Yeah, and I think I agree with you. It's all those little bits. So it's the 1 hour of sleep that you miss because you've been woken up at 2 a.m, or you know, and sometimes you have more difficult things that you need to deal with when you're on call, and that might take you a few hours to get back to sleep. But then they all sort of build up, and then you've still, you know, you walk into the office and you've got all the things that you need to deal with, and then an incident happens, and you know, like, so it is all those things that just compound to make it harder. And then you're being bombarded with all these regulatory changes, and so it's not just it's not one big thing that leads to burnout. It's all these different stresses that are contributing.
Did you have anything else you wanted to say today, Nicole, or appeal to anyone, or maybe you could get some support for your research out there? Is there anything that you'd like to say to the audience?
Oh yeah, look, you know, if anyone's interested in the research that I'm looking into, I'd be happy for you to contact me. I believe Danny and Adam will have the link to the scoping review that I did. Obviously, as I get into my research, I'm going to need to talk to participants and sort of get ideas from people who have experienced burnout, might be experiencing burnout, or know someone that has experienced burnout. So yeah, definitely, if anyone's interested in getting in touch with me, I'd be happy to chat to you.
Well, thanks so much for sharing your time today, Nicole. I know on behalf of Danny and I, we really appreciate you coming on the show. I know the industry definitely lost an amazing person, but the way you're contributing back is really inspiring. And if we can help one person, 2 people, that's just amazing. So I think I just want to reiterate, if you're listening to this and you might see some of those signs or feel some of those signs or have an inkling, reach out to somebody. It doesn't have to be us, but I think starting a conversation is always the beginning of some type of fix to whatever the problem may be. So, yeah, don't hold it inside. Speak up. Yeah.
No. And if your doctor says it's stress, I'd listen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't try and justify what it might be something else. It possibly is stress. So, so
Yeah.
I do apologise to my doctor for not taking their advice a bit earlier. But so please, it is a serious topic. It's not going away anywhere anytime soon. Responsibilities, reaction, and regulation, they're all contributing to burnout. And please look after yourself. And there's definitely plenty of support out there. So
and there's nothing to be embarrassed about either, is there, Nicole? Because people can feel embarrassed about sharing their vulnerability. So that's another thing, is that's why I kind of say the communication is so important, because just talking about it gets it out of your insides.
Yeah, and talk to your colleagues. Do you know what I mean? Like the other managers that you're working with. You know, I think I don't think we talk about these things enough to actually see that it's not just you. You know, I failed as a person because I burnt out. No, that's not the case. It wasn't my fault that I burnt out. It's organisational, it's situational, it's environmental. And it wasn't, I suppose, until I started looking into this research that's come across quite clearly to me. And when I look at it more, I understand it more. So, it's not your fault. And, reach out, and I'm happy for people to contact me, or if you're interested in any of my research, let me know, and I'd be happy to come back if you'd welcome me back as I get further into the research.
Absolutely.
That'd be great to have a follow-up. To see where you're up to.
Yeah, awesome. All right, thanks so much, Nicole. That was great.
That's all right, not a problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nicole.